Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for the cut file crew. So the cut file that we're using is a free one from Paper Issues called Rainbow Spotting on a Cloudy Day. So I've decided to actually use half of one of the rainbows, so I've cut it on white cardstock and I've moved it to one side, and I decided I was actually going to ink the colours of the rainbow. So you can see my little post-it note there. I've just reminded myself of the Richard of York so that I can actually get them in order. And I'm not just doing the stripes of the rainbow, I'm doing the bits in between. So rather than just do the hearts in the middle layer there between the red and the yellow, I'm going to actually make the whole line orange, and then I'll come back and deal with the hearts at the end. So I'm just using a white messy mat there and Distress Oxides and brushes that I bought on Amazon. And I'm using more than one shade on each one because these are Distress Oxides. So I'm going to mix a couple of colours, and I'm also going to give them a little spritz with water each time, and I'm putting them to one side to dry while I start the next one. So I've added pink in because there's actually 7 layers to this rainbow, and I wanted, sorry, 8, and I wanted to make sure I'd got 8 different colours. So I've added pink in between the 2 purpley shades, so just to add a bit more contrast. And this last one, I'm going to ink all of this piece, but then I'm going to make it the same sort of shape as the previous ones. So I brought them in now when it's dry. I'm just using that piece of cardstock at the top to give me an idea. So when I actually cut the cut file, I positioned it where I would want it to be on the finished layout, if that makes sense. So I'm just using that to help. And in the areas, like the waist areas of the cardstock, I actually cut a couple of the clouds, and I will go back and cut some more clouds that came from this cut file. So I'm using the outline of one of the clouds and some white ink there, and I'm actually just going to stencil a couple of clouds onto the cardstock, just peeking out behind the rainbow. So they're not fully inked, but they're enough that they're going to actually give a bit of background to that blue cardstock. I decided I would go with blue rather than, I tend to use a lot of white, but I thought it would be a good backdrop for the clouds. So I'm just using some 3D foam pads here, and I'm going to start with the red layer, and I'm going to start to get them positioned on to the 12 by 12 cardstock. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the cut file crew. It's a group of scrapbookers that use IG as their base. We have a cut file crew IG account, plus we all post our layouts individually. So it's always on the last Sunday of the month. We take it in turns to pick a free cut file, which means that you could find this cut file, and we try to provide lots of different inspiration for that cut file, so that if you fancy joining us and having a go at it, then there's lots of inspiration for you there, and it's a cut file that you don't have to pay for. So it's a win-win really. So I would recommend you find us on IG and have a look at all the past inspiration. So I've stuck those down, and I've just trimmed the edge there because I obviously probably didn't get them quite in line with where they were when I cut them. And I'm now going to use the extra bits that were in the cut file, which I've left stuck to the mat. I thought that was a safe bet so that I can get them in the right position. And I'm going to ink them in similar tones to the rainbow stripes that they are meant to be in. I must admit, I am a massive fan of Distress Oxides. I do like the way they alter when you spray them with water, and they do seem to blend really well with different colours within the same range. So I was just having a look. I want them to be a little paler orange, those hearts, and also there's dots in between them, so I'm going to bring them in and do them in a slightly different shade. So right at the very beginning, you may have seen a flash of a piece of patterned paper. It wasn't even whole, but it was a piece of Cocoa Vanilla Studio Sunkissed. I definitely already used it for another layout, and it still got some flower clusters on it. And that was the inspiration for the colours that I picked. You can't see it, it's off camera, but it's there on my desk. And I was using that because I was thinking potentially I might add a few flower clusters to this layout. So I thought, because so far everything I've used is just cardstock and ink. So I thought if I'm going to use some pattern paper, then I want to make sure that the colours are all cohesive. So I will be bringing that back in later, but that is where the inspiration from the colours actually came from. So I've got all these dots now, they've all been inked and all been sprayed and are pretty much dry. So I'm coming in with some foam pads that I've cut up, and I'm actually just sticking them into place. I'm trying to keep them in the same order they were on, and I get those stuck down. So I've now got some clouds, and I definitely want to add potentially 5, maybe not full ones. I'm just having a play around. I don't want to cover too much of the rainbow, but I do like the way these look, and I think they're really cute with the heart cut out of them as well. So I'm just going to trim that one so it sits really nicely. I'd like one hanging over the edge as well. I printed off 2 photos. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use. These are both of my eldest son as a child, and I prefer this one. I think the tones in the background go really well with the green that it's on top of. So I've come in with some variegated cotton. I had this crazy idea that I was going to sew around the clouds with the sewing machine, and then I realised that actually they were a little bit too curvy for my skills, and given the size of them I thought I was going to make an absolute mess. So I decided I was actually going to sew them by hand. Obviously this is something that you either love or you hate. I'm a big sewer, or I have been over the years, so I don't see it as a big deal. I've gone in with a paper piercer and I've already put the holes into the cloud, and I'm just going to do a running back stitch. So I don't know, about 4 or 5 millimeters in from the edge and go all the way around. I'm not going to subject you to that, but I did one and I really liked it, and then I thought I'll stick that into place. That's the paper again from Cocoa Vanilla Studio that I'm looking at to coordinate, and I actually then brought in some of the die cuts I had left from the range to see how those flowers would look around the clouds. In fact, in the long run I don't use any of the die cuts flowers, but I do come across a title that I'd like, so it was worth me having a look at those. But it was just for them, I'm trying to figure out how to finish this off, because I spent so much at the beginning focusing on the rainbow. So I'm now going to put the holes in all of the clouds, because I do like the way that the cotton has worked on the small one that I did. So I'm going to sew the rest off camera. I actually take them on a car journey. You'll be glad to hear I wasn't the driver, and so I just did them while I was the passenger and got them all done. So it didn't take too long actually to sort them. So I'm really pleased with the way they look. I've cut some clusters from the actual pattern paper of flowers. I decided I was getting too regulated about having reds and oranges one side and purples the other, so I thought 2 clusters. In fact, I bring in a third, a tiny bit underneath the clouds as well. That wasn't even a full flower, it was off the edge of the paper, but it works really well. And using some foam pads, I'm now sticking those clouds down. I do like a bit of texture, and I like to raise bits on my layouts so they don't look too flat. It's not always easy to tell when you're looking straight down from the video angle, but I'm just tucking the flowers in there, and then I will get the photograph in position between the clouds. And I just attach that with a more double-sided sticky pads, and it's already resting on that yellow that's already raised in the rainbow, so that's high enough now. So I'm going to add this cloud over the top just to cover the edge of the photo. I think the stitching really lifts the cloud from the photo, particularly when my son is wearing white. The photo was taken on his christening day actually, so that's a christening gown he's wearing. So I think that sewing just adds definition to that edge. But at this stage, apart from these little bits of flowers, the rest of it is just ink, paper and sewing. So I found a little title that said Happy Days. Each letter's a different colour. I really like that. So I decided I'm going to add that to the photo, and I'm going to add a little heart from the same range, the Sunkissed range. So that's me done. Thank you so much for watching. Here's the full image and some close-ups too. Do check out the Cut File crew. Give us a thumbs up. I'm happy to answer any comments that you leave. I'd love you to subscribe to my channel. I've just got to 1,000 followers, so I am extremely grateful. And I hope to see you here again real soon. Bye for now.